Hey everybody, it's Sunday, and I just want to let you know that I have graded discussion 4. Ask that you at least take a minute to go back and see whether I left you a note. Sometimes those notes are in the grade book, but I think more notes this time I left in the main discussion board area, so hopefully everybody will see them. I really enjoyed the innovation discussions, looking at your different definitions of what you think of when you think of innovation, your principles, and then looking to see whether or not the stories that you told that you brought as innovative actually matched those principles. So I didn't ask you whether all the principles that you came up with had to be present in every innovation, and I think probably the answer to that is an obvious no. But there are a lot of things to think about, and some of you mentioned, many of you mentioned new and improvement on the outcome improvement on the old way of looking at things, so forth. But a few of you mentioned things like leads to sustainability, and we're not talking about ecological sustainability here. We're talking about sustainability of the improvements, involves everybody, it is measurable. I'm trying to think of what some of the other ones were. I don't remember because I should have made some notes, but as you go back in and look at my notes in the discussion board, you hopefully will see that I tried to highlight these unique ones that not everybody said, so that we can think about are these things really necessary, and if so, how can we make sure that that's part of any community innovations that we go for. Another thing that was interesting to me as I looked at your principles is that if you could take some of these principles, if you took one, you would see that there are principles in the principles. In other words, I'll just give you an easy one. All or most of the community members need to be willing to participate. I think somebody asked that question, is everybody willing to participate? For me, that just immediately raised questions of what elements have to be in place for an entire community to be on board. And you might have different answers for this than I do, but clearly people have to feel like they belong. They have to feel that the fate of the community is also their fate and therefore worth stepping into, and that they have some power if they step in to actually make a difference and not have it be a waste of their time. And you ask yourself, what would a community have to look like so that people that were in that community could feel like that? And there would have to be the kind of networks of people that are connected, feel like there's great communication, feel like there's trust, and that people are treated with respect and dignity and not cliques and other, and we're in and they're out. And when you start, peeling the layers back of the onion on just what it would take for a community to actually be ready to come together to work on something, you see that there's a lot of other stuff that has to happen first. I think it's really important to think like that, because if you have a project that could be great as long as the community was all on board, even if you got everybody whipped up and excited about it, unless some of those other factors, the trust and the connectivity and the sense of being able to make a difference are already in place, ultimately I think people will fall out if those things aren't there. So when you're thinking about a community, you want to assess, are all the elements in place, or do we have to have some building block steps where we begin to have community picnics and community conversations and bringing our elected officials or our leaders out into the community to shake hands and to have authentic conversations. These are things that you have to perhaps put in place before you can actually launch your amazing community innovation. So, and I just gave you one example, and I think if you look at some of those principles, you'll see that there are other examples too that you need to peel back the onion and say, well, to get to the ability to do this, what will we have to build in first? What else do I want to say? They were really interesting to read. I appreciated that. And I think that's it. I guess I will tell you that I feel like some of you are not being careful to answer all of the questions that I have asked. I did not dock anybody. Instead, I started to dock people, and then I decided there's too much of this, so I maybe need to just make it more clear. If I have asked you a bunch of questions in the in the discussion instructions, make sure that you reference all of the questions, because I need to see that you actually went through all of those steps of thinking or talking or whatever I've asked you to do, and the only way I can know that is if you actually reference them. So please, just our iteration of trying to build our skills in here to, move really fast, but also get a lot of stuff done. Last thing I want to say is I know it's a holiday weekend. I know a lot of you are with family or friends and have stuff going on. You do have something due Monday, which also happens to be Memorial Day, but I will not be grading it until Tuesday morning. So you can relax a little bit if you need to. You can get up probably pretty early. I'm going to guess I'm going to get up. Now, remember, I'm on Kansas City time, so I'm a couple hours ahead of you, but I'm likely to get up, take my dogs on a nice long walk, and have a cup of tea and read my email before I ever get around to grading. So if you can get it done by, say, 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday, which is 10 o'clock my time, we'll probably be okay. All right, I think that's it. Again, I want to thank everybody for the thoughtfulness and the depth of what you did right, and I look forward to seeing our next question together and where that will take us. Have a great Memorial Day.